Portland. It used to be such a cool place. One of America's neatest cities. The architecture, the culture, the funky neighborhoods and community cohesion, sense of place and uniqueness and just outright charm. The city had an identity and vibe that was hard to match. Now, there's definitely an identity and vibe that's hard to match too, but not in a good way. Of course, parts of downtown Portland still have some neat aspects to them, and the whole place isn't trashed and filled with out of control protesters. And if you look really hard, like really hard, you can maybe find an affordable place to live that isn't ruined. But Portland is not a family friendly place anymore, nor one that you should consider moving to in order to begin a family. I guess it's a relevant place if you're young and lead an alternative lifestyle and like to break things and yell and scream a lot. So let's unpeel the gross, urine-stained layers of this city and talk about 10 reasons Portland, Oregon sucks. Our first reason Portland sucks and why you shouldn't ever move here is, well, everybody else is leaving. Well, not everyone, but lots of people are. A recent report just found that more people left Portland than moved into it. And most of those people are in their 20s, which is always a key demographic for a city's growth and very telling considering that younger people have been the lifeblood for Portland's growth of late. And if they're not leaving, they're not coming to begin with. Reports have shown there's been a 4% drop in rental activity in the city as well. It seems it word's out among people who live here and for visitors too. One fan of this channel sent me this comment talking about their experience when they were coming into Portland on a recent trip. As the plane landed, the comment says, the pilot said, "Welcome to the city of roses," and the entire plane burst into laughter. But forget all the research and newspaper articles. How about we talk with real, actual Portland residents to get their perspective? All right, everybody, so we have a special guest today joining me, and I'm sure many of you are going to recognize him. It's Briggs from World According to Briggs. What's up, Briggs?
What is going on, Nick? How are you, buddy?
Do you know where people are moving to?
They're just getting across the river and out of Portland. And I know a lot of people are moving to the Beaverton area that used to live downtown. So
and probably never coming back.
Probably not. It's kind of like I am now. You know, living downtown, if you don't need to, you shouldn't. I mean, it's great if you're in your 20s and like to hit the bars and stuff like that. You start having a family and stuff like that, the suburbs are calling you.
So you're leaving Portland proper because why?
I mean, for the past decade or so, Portland has had some pretty significant problems with homelessness, drug abuse, just cleanliness of the city in general. But before 2020, it was pretty tolerable. Like you could still, go out, enjoy your weekend in the city, go downtown, and maybe you have a couple run-ins with some unsavory individuals, or maybe you have to step over some, human feces in the street, but it wasn't that big of a deal. I didn't feel, uncomfortable in any way. And I have a 2-year-old daughter, and, we never cared, we would go downtown all the time, and it never really bothered us, some of the homelessness we'd see down there. Mm-hmm. But, 2020 kind of took a nosedive, and it did for, most cities. But, it's really depressing around here. There's a lot of homeless camps, and, with that, there's a lot of new property crime. And, I feel for the people, but it's kind of just a hard place to be. And we're looking forward to being a calmer place, somewhere where we're more comfortable raising a family and just, getting to enjoy our lives. And from what I've read online, a lot of people are looking to, try and get to nicer neighborhoods or just leave, the city or the state entirely.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah. So you just hear a lot of people saying they're going to leave, but a lot of people haven't left yet.
Correct.
Where do they say they're going to go?
A lot would like to move to Boise, Idaho. I hear Texas. I hear Arizona quite a bit. I don't hear a lot about California or Washington. It seems to be anywhere but there, really. But a lot of it Idaho, Boise, Nampa, that area, Caldwell. Nevada.
Yeah.
I've heard Nevada a few times.
I spoke with one mother on the phone who said it's just not a safe place to raise kids anymore. She's leaving too.
I think we've noticed a trend that a lot of people who are like myself were born and raised in Portland. We're moving to the suburbs. Like we're moving. A lot of us are going to Happy Valley or Clackamas, or just further out. We like that. Our families are here. Everyone's here. But so we're definitely lot of us are moving away from the central, metro area.
Of course, Portland is a filthy city these days, in case you haven't heard. Listen to what one Portland resident had to say about her city.
Portland is embarrassing. I see businesses continue to move out as more problems move into Portland, and those problems continue to bring more and more problems. Portland smells like weed, beer, and urine when you walk down the streets. Portland has been the only city I've seen people defecate on the side of the streets while families try to walk by. Portland is the only place where I've seen needles and the remainings of other drugs littering the streets, parks, and business entryways. And I used to love it here. I really did. But now I do my very best to avoid the city, and I think that's really sad.
And here's another comment I got from a Portland resident. The garbage is out of control. The people who make these horrible messes should be held accountable. Burned cars, stripped cars, buckets of human around every corner, syringes, rubbers, rats, and bedbugs, rampant. There's no flower pots out to see, no swings, no birds really to speak of, the noise of the trains and the planes. The baseball fields are overgrown, as are the parks and recreational places. People are still helpful and mostly friendly, but my city is getting slowly sucked down the crapper. I mean, I got comment after comment about how sad Portland residents are about their city, what it looks like, what it smells like now. It was overwhelming.
Okay, so this is something I've noticed. The homeless encampments, I guess you could call them, they used to kind of maintain their areas. Now, I don't know if it's a different feel for them, or they've just decided, or maybe there was a government agency helping them clean it up. Now it's just wherever there's an encampment, it looks like a trash heap every single time I see one.
A while back, I did a bit of traveling, and I went to Central America and kind of saw what third world countries are like. And some of the stuff I see here in Portland is worse than anything I saw in Central America. So it's really eye-opening, and it's sad, and I'm hopeful that it gets better, but in the meantime we're packing up and we're going to a better neighborhood.
Would you want to move to a city where a lot of the entertainment's shut down and in many cases gone forever? That's not a sign of a city that's dynamic and growing. It's a sign of a city that's slowly dying. Sure, COVID shut a bunch of stuff down, but so did the looting and rioting. The reason they called Portland Stumptown is because it grew so fast here in the mid-1800s that there were tree stumps everywhere. Now they're using that wood not to build businesses, but to protect them. A lot of shops, stores, and restaurants get smashed with rocks, eggs, and fireworks. A lot of the businesses left Portland completely and permanently because they're scared, because they're fed up of what's happening, or because there just aren't enough people downtown to justify their existence. Look at this list of all the businesses in Portland which have closed for good. It's updated every day.
Yeah, it's still boarded up, and a lot of businesses have left, I would say. I know a few that I remember seeing when I was down there that are just no longer there. They've just left.
Fortunately, not every business is out, but there's a large number of businesses that are still, they still have boarded up windows. There's, some good restaurants and bars that are permanently closed now. So it's a pretty sad situation. Downtown is still a ghost town. I go there on occasion, and it's just kind of, it's eerie. It's sad. It's depressing. And, you can tell it has the bones of a good city, but right now on the outside, it's not looking good.
The graffiti, the local businesses that have been family owned for many, many years now moving out or closing their doors. That part it hurts. It really does. And I don't blame one side or another. I think it had destroyed beautiful downtown Portland. And I think it's going to be a long time before they can really recover from that. There's a lot of protesting going on, a lot of property damage. So yeah, there's I couldn't tell you, maybe 15 blocks of Portland downtown that you just really wouldn't want to go into currently. They were looted and they've closed up shop, unfortunately, and moved out.
Never to come back, probably.
Probably not.
Of course, the protests are a big reason Portland is a dangerous place these days. Sure, healthy freedom of speech protests are welcome in any American city. Many of the protests are peaceful and meaningful here. I mean, they aren't all led by angry youths. But the continual protesting has worn out the police, the local officials, business owners, and many residents. Look at this list of the number of recorded protests which happened in Portland in the second half of last year alone. Things have calmed down a little bit this year, but it's not permanent. They're just taking a break, and they're waiting for a reason to get the rocks and fireworks out all over again.
A lot of, when the protests started in all major cities, they seem to have been quelled pretty quickly. Portland has just gone on and on and on. And not due to the mayor or the governor. But even myself, who was in support of these protests early on, have felt that it's just gone on far too long. It needed to stop many, many months ago.
Number 5 on the list of reasons you shouldn't move to Portland is the politics. Now, whether or not you agree with Portland's politics, you have to admit city leaders and the police haven't been very responsive to figuring out a solution to the things we've talked about or will talk about in this video. A lot of people complain that the city allows destruction and violence and that the police do little to enforce the law. It's very much a politically divided city and one where a ton of people simply will not tolerate your political views. Portland narrowly re-elected the city's mayor, Ted Wheeler, despite the fact that he's been widely criticized for his handling of the homeless issue here, as well as the deadly protesting and the crime and the filth. It was the closest election since 1980. Only 46% of Portland voters wanted him back, but he's back. So the political climate here is definitely on life support. Portland's had a huge homeless problem for a long time now. The city's hippie vibe and weird culture, it's attracted people with alternative lifestyles for decades. Today, the city of Portland caters to the homeless population. They give them free tents and free food, and there's no official policy on clearing out the camps or relocating the homeless. It's just really out of control at this point. Downtown is literally filled with homeless people, the mentally insane, the drug users, and the lifestylers. And all the tents and the homeless and the beggars are spilling out into the suburbs now as well.
I agree everyone has a right to, if they can't survive, you have to live. You can't chase them from town to town. So I just think Portland has kind of taken a position where everyone has the right to live, wherever, kind of wherever they want. Sure, you got to have some kind of rules and stuff like that. But what do you do? What do you do with them? I mean, if you can't get them a job and you can't get them an apartment, what are you going to do? Put them in Seattle or send them to some other neighborhood that's going to chase them out there? So
that's what other cities are doing to you. They're sending them to you.
Exactly. That's what I've heard. I've heard that before, that they're actually sending them to us. But I think a lot of people are just drawn here because our government and our police are, I would say, a little more understanding, and we have rules in place to where we really can't harass them that much. Well, just like any community, that reputation gets spread around. They know this, so a lot of them will gravitate here.
What's the plan to fix things?
I don't know. I don't know if there is a plan. I mean, everything that everyone's ever done for the homeless, it's gotten worse. So this is how the homeless situation works, in my opinion. You have 60% of the people living on the streets right now that's just what they're going to do. For whatever reason, they just want to live on the streets. What they got to do is they got to save that other 40%. And about 10% of them are just people that lost jobs recently, or they just lost their apartment.
Right.
And now they're living in the car. Yeah, transitioning people. Those are the people you can save. And that's what they need to focus on. And they need to understand that maybe just give the other homeless people some food and let them be homeless, because that's what they want to do, whether it's through mental defect, drug addiction, or just personal choice.
So, homelessness is a big one. We have just 3 houses down from where we're at right now. We're along one of the interstate corridors, and there's a multi-use path. I think it's owned by the county, and sort of a green space by it. And so that green space is just completely full with tents, people coming and going, camping there. And with that comes all sorts of property crime that's been a nuisance. But yeah, there are definitely parts of town that are in downtown where it's full of homeless people and tents, and it has spread to some of the more outlying neighborhoods. So I think we're 7 or 8 miles east of downtown, and there's quite a bit of homelessness out here too.
And it's unfortunate for the homeless people. I really feel for them. But you're also seeing, it's any on-ramp, any patch of grass. You have an on-ramp, off-ramp, sidewalk, business has grass. You're going to see a tent there, and you're going to see graffiti, trash. And it's rampant here.
Now, when you have a lot of homeless people and vagrants, you're going to have a lot of home break-ins and car thefts to go with it. I mean, they need money for drugs. And when you allow violent protests to happen every night, people are going to get injured and property is going to get destroyed. And when you tell the police to stand down, criminals are going to prey. Last year, Portland saw the deadliest month since the 1980s. finally came up with some initial steps to curb all the crime. The plan calls for more detectives on the ground to investigate all the shootings, but to many residents, it's simply trying to solve crimes instead of trying to prevent them in the first place. One police sergeant said people are running around the city unchecked, and the city's becoming a shooting gallery, and that is just unbelievable.
We have an east side, which is the other side of the river, away from where all the, college kids and stuff are. And I guess you could say it was our more rundown area on the east side of the river. And it's getting a little dangerous over there. There's been shootings and things like that. I mean, we used to see a shooting maybe a couple times a month. And now it seems like every day someone got shot on the east side of Portland.
But it's not just the shootings, it's the day-to-day assaults, the car thefts, the property crimes, the vandalism. It's all over. Doesn't matter what part of town you're in.
I saw someone complaining about, this pile of stolen bikes that they saw in a homeless camp. And they were like, I even found my bike in here. Can we do anything? Can we get the police to break it up? Because it's obviously illegal. And so they said something about, someone commented on that, and they said that I don't know if this is a city police rule or the county, or I don't know whose rule it is, but apparently for them to consider it, to be able to clean it up, it has to be considered a felony. And it's not a felony to steal a bike if the bike is worth under $5,000. So it's that inaction of the city to allow people to clean up and to stop obvious crime.
Another reason you don't want to move to Portland, the depression. For 220 days a year, it's incredibly drizzly, dark, dank, cold, and gloomy. One study just came out that called Portland the most depressed city in the country. But it's not just the weather. The study looked at a variety of factors, including rates of depression, suicide, divorce, crime, unemployment, as well as the weather. And there's no support for the depression either. Mental Health America says Oregon ranks second to last in the country for access to mental health care. The number 9 reason why Portland isn't a place you should move to? The people themselves. Sure, there's lots of nice people here, but there's an atmosphere of perceived superiority and entitlement and very little tolerance of openness to listen to other points of view. Fact is, if you don't agree with what's happening in Portland, you simply won't fit in, and you'll be ostracized, or even worse. I mean, God help you if you express your political views at a protest or in public. You might be beaten up. A lot of the new people who move here are coming because of the stereotypes of what they want Portland to be, a vision of what the new people want, not what Portland was in the past. And finally, we come to the last reason not to move to Portland and why Portland sucks. It's a high cost of living. Profiteering developers have knocked down awesome historical buildings for tiny yuppie condos. Sadly, a lot of great parts of Portland were knocked down to market the city, and a lot of the newcomers, they didn't get to experience what made Portland a magical place. Kiplinger called Portland the 4th most expensive city in the nation, where the cost of living is 34% higher than the national average, and where housing costs are 84% above the U.S. average. Transportation and healthcare costs are also far above national averages too. The rent here, which actually went down a little bit recently if you can believe it, still exceeds the job market in many industries. Homes that were once $60,000 are now $600,000. Property taxes were the 5th highest in the nation before the increase that just passed. People pay 2.46% a year on their homes. It's going up all the time. But people keep voting for more and more taxes around here. To pay for what? Who knows? I mean, look at the place.
Yeah, well, we didn't have any laws for a long time that controlled rent. And I think we have some limited ones now. And people are just every month jacking up the rent on people as the economy got better after 2008, 2010 area. And that put a lot of people on the street. So yeah, we have this one area by this hospital, this long road, probably about a mile long, that has the freeway to the left of it, and then this big hospital to the right of it. At night, around 5 o'clock, you'll just see all these motorhomes and campers and vans start lining up on the street along the freeway. They just camp there for the night. I mean, they move out in the morning, which is nice, but around 5 or 6 at night, they just start getting their parking places. They pull out little grills. They cook dinner and they sleep there for the night. And there's a lot of those people. And you can tell, I've driven by there probably 20 times and I've kind of taken notice. I've looked, and there are people that have jobs, in my opinion, most of the time. They're just can't afford an apartment, can't afford a house. They're just doing what they can.
Where do they go during the day? Their job?
I imagine their job. They probably park their van or wherever, their motorhome, someplace near their job, and just walk to their job. There's a lot of places you can park around here for the day. And then most people here, that's a really strange thing. They ride our train here a lot in Oregon, or in Portland, I should say. So I think a lot of them will just move away from that area, park their motorhome, get on the Max, and go to work, and then come home and park again.
Yeah. So there's a whole bunch of people that are just there's almost designated parking for the
Yeah,
transitional homeless who can't afford to live in a home or an
yeah,
apartment.
yeah. It's like a little town in itself, over there on the east side of Portland.
And so like when we drive around, we look at, some of the houses for sale here, and we're like, imagine being one of these poor saps spending $500,000 on a home and having to live in this neighborhood. Like I can't imagine, wanting to do that. I'm just grateful we rent here and we can just, pick up and go.
Like there's tons and tons of tech people coming from San Francisco just buying homes that are way above what they should go for. And so we can't afford to live here anymore. Like everybody that lived here prior to the boom, prior to Portland getting really popular, we're getting pushed out. Like my friends who are able to buy houses are having to go to West Lynn or way out on 60th. Like we can't be in Portland. It's just not realistic.
So what's the solution to fix Portland? Nobody really knows.
I don't think it's a great time to be here, and I think Portland's glory days are far behind us. I don't know what the solution is, but what I do know how to do is I know how to rent a U-Haul truck and find a better neighborhood, and I think that's the attitude of most people right now who are unhappy with the situation.
What is the solution that you think needs to happen to get Portland to be as a great city again?
I wish I wish I had an answer. I really don't know. It's I don't know. I wish I had an answer. I love the city. I hate to see the shape it's in right now. And I think they will rebound. I just don't know the answer to that.
As much fun as it is to, crap all over Portland and, say it's a terrible place right now, it still does have redeeming qualities that keep us here in the area. And maybe that's more to do with like the state of Oregon and just, the geography here, the nature, we love it here. And so even though the city itself is bad, I think there's still a lot of good places to live around here. So, all this doom and gloom about the problems in Portland, I still think there's reason for optimism because there's a lot of good places, a lot of good people surrounding here. And, maybe 5-10 years from now, maybe I'm hopeful, but maybe it'll be a better place and everything will be back to the way it was before.
Hopefully.
Yeah.
Some of Portland's problems have been brewing for years. A string of one-term mayors hasn't made it easy to make much progress on fixing things. A divided in state government with a legislature that has a history of staging walkouts makes it hard. The history of hippieism and anything goes, well, that's starting to backfire now. Are people in Portland pissed about this? I mean, it's your businesses being shut down and your friends and neighbors moving away. It's your money being used to clean up graffiti and power wash the buildings and the sidewalks. It's your tax money being used to pander to the homeless. Fact is, Portland's just another gridlocked, dirty, overcrowded, and overpriced city. No more special than any other generic and mediocre place to live. Hopefully, as people flee this once great, proud city, the problems don't follow them. There's a concern that this failed Portland experiment's going to spill into the suburbs and maybe even one day come to a city near you, no matter what state you're in. He's gonna do it. There's a new cat in town now. He's gonna live the life he can now. He's gonna make his tent dreams come true. Ruin it always. Once he stops, you can't get him out now. His whole dream's to bring him down now. He'll never let you help him be like you. Self-ruin his chance, it's all wasted, making his dreams not come true. And it's all wasted, making his dreams not come true. Poor me and you. Hey guys, so if anything I just talked about upset you or made you sad or mad, well then do something about it. Call your local leaders and demand change. Chip in and help those in need. Make your community better. because communities don't get better without hard work and determination. America's a great place. It just needs some more love and pride.
This is Sage, Nick's manager. This has been a Corner House Entertainment production.